Baruchim Aboim B'Shem Irgin Shirei Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov Zev Smith Shlita on the topic Disposable Items in Halacha. Kli Chad Pami Lar HaHalacha. Whoever would like to have the great success of sponsoring a shir, call Irgin Shirei Torah 718-851-8651.
A while ago we heard a unique shaila where in the hospital they give these disposable hospital gowns. When someone comes to visit a patient, they keep them sterile. They shouldn't get spread germs. They have these gowns. They used to make them cloth gowns. Now it's disposable gowns made of paper. And typically after you finish wearing it, you tear it off. It's easier than pulling it off. And the question is on Shabbos or Yom Tov, is it mutter to tear the gown? It's much easier than pulling it off. We're not allowed to tear a beged. The question is a disposable gown considered a beged? And these weeks we heard the question about a disposable pot. I couldn't believe such a thing, but I went to the store and I saw it. I will soon describe it. But a cholent pot that people use when you have a 3-day Yom Tov, Shabbos, 2 days Shavuos, so it's much easier to have the pot you can throw out instead of keeping a pot in the sink for over the 3-day Yom Tov. A disposable grill. Today they have the specially designed disposable becha. I was walking a number of years ago past someone's house. He got a Talmud Chacham, and the garbage was out for collection, and he had a big bag, and on it said in big letters, disposable shemus. So that was certainly enough to put together a sugya, as we'll see in our disposable society, disposable mentality. Everything is disposable. We'll see we have shilas from the Tilas Yadayim to the end of our Chaim, and then a sprinkling of Yeridea as well. But the crux of the issue is, for many halachas, you need a keli. You need a keli for Kiddush, Netilas Yadayim. You have to toivel a keli. You can't destroy a keli. A keli is not muktzah. Until recently, a keli was very defined. A pot is a keli, a bech is a keli, a washing cup is a keli. Today we have disposable pots, cups, becha, gowns. And the question is, do we say, since the disposable cup, disposable becha, has the same benefit? It holds the wine, it holds the water. Okay, it's not as elegant, it's not as valuable, but if it's a cup that pours water, it's good for Netilas Yadayim. So who cares if you throw it out? Or maybe the fact that it's disposable, you only used it once, it doesn't have a Shem Keli. So the word disposable, Keli, might be a contradiction in terms. So this is our question. Something that does the same function, but it's disposable. Does it have a Shem Keli, and therefore it's good for the Netilas Yadayim or Kiddush, or maybe not? Now again, the word disposable, you could call it Chad Pami like it's called today, or Aroi, but it's all the same idea. A disposable item, does it have the status of a Keli? And this is our privilege, pleasure today to try to find a source in our Teiras Netzach that's so responsive. Is a disposable Keli considered a Keli? And I hope we'll find the first disposable in history. Now what's tricky is, in this sugya, there's no such thing as chumra or kula. Some people say, I'm a mekel, just tell me the kulas, or I'm a machmir. Here there's no kula or chumra, and I'll explain. Imagine you come to a Kiddush Shabbos, and someone's making Kiddush on a plastic cold cup. You go, what are you doing? You have to have a kais. Because what are you talking about? A disposable, by me, is a full-fledged keli. Okay, it's a free country, you can say what you want. Sunday, you come to his house, you see he's using a disposable pan. You ask him, did you toivel it? He goes, nah, why should I toivel it? A disposable pan, not a keli. That's inconsistent. Is it a keli or not? It has chumras, it has kulas. Someone used a cup for Kiddush, right? And then by the Kiddush, after he finishes eating, someone making a long, long speech. He's getting all nervous. He starts crushing the cup. People let out their frustration. They crush the cup. Is that sois a keli? If you hold it's a keli lagabi Kiddush, then you can't break the cup. Then you can't crush an aluminum pan. So really it has chumras and kulas, and you have to find a consistent approach. So the chayra might be a source. The Tosefta in Kalim Perik Zayin Ois Gimel, it's in Sefta Kalim Bav Mitziyah. Ha'ois Kalim min alefes for esrig v'dalas hayaveshim. Now, those days they didn't have cans or plastic. They had to be very creative, and they made vessels from vegetables, from gourd, from dalas, from esrig, and you made it as a receptacle to hold water. Hareihem tahirim. Even though you made it into a keli, it doesn't have the status of keli, and it's not makabel tumah like a regular keli. Why? Now here's the punchline. Lefishi efshe yamoid elazman muat. These type of kelim cannot last. Now, in those days, that was the second best thing to a plastic keli. So the chayr we see a aroy, a chat pami, is not makabel tumah. If it's not makabel tumah, it's not a keli. Then huadin, it's not good for kiddush or for netilas yadayim. However, and according to that, a disposable also. It also doesn't last. But that's not true. Because try making a keli out of an esrig, it might last a week, but then it starts to shrivel, dry, and eventually rot. Bechefza, a keli made from these type of vegetables, but if you take a plastic cold cup, the 7-ounce cold cups, plastic cups, and you keep it by your kitchen sink and use it for the next 100 days, it will last. It doesn't fall apart, doesn't shrivel. Now, if you sit on it, it breaks. But then again, expensive china also breaks easily. In other words, maybe the lefes, the las, don't last by nature. A plastic cup lasts as long as you want it to last. Maybe it's a keli. Where is this Tosefta, rather which the Rambam in Kalim Beis Aleph quotes, La Halacha, where does this Tosefta Rambam apply? It might apply to the paper cups that you get by the dentist, the Dixie cups it's called. Those, you use it once, it starts to fall apart. That doesn't last. Maybe that's not a keli. Rather, the same Rambam says if you make the paper into a keli, it's considered a keli. It's makabel tumah. So here we have the following. A keli that doesn't last out of a gourd, out of dalas, is not a keli. But we don't see a source for our disposable cups, plastic cups, because they could last. Now, we do find, this is a Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Mem Vav, it's quoted in the beginning of Shin Yudalad and Shulchan Aruch, that a mustaki is not a keli. And La Halacha, at least according to some sheet, he's allowed to break it on Shabbos. What's a mustaki? So a keli shvura, a very shvache keli that was broken and you repaired it. So the assumption is if it's broken, then there's no shem keli. If there's no shem keli, you're allowed to break it. But again, that doesn't have shaykhs to our plastic disposable cup. There's nothing wrong with it. It could last. It's not broken. Now, you tell me, but I throw it out in the garbage. Okay, that's a different point. So here we have to find a raya that's something that might be a keli, but you throw it out, is that a keli or not? So here, Rabbi Yisrael, I'm going to share with you a Tosefta. God also is a Mishnah in Kalim. Tosefta is Perek Vav Halacha Aleph. And since this is Nekuda for today, I'm going to read the Lashon. Chaisel shel tomorrow. A chaisel, you should know, it's a pasuk in Yecheskel Tezayin Dalar. Chaisel is a wrapper. Rashi teaches in Yecheskel Tezayin Dalid, Kricha b'v'godim. In those days, they didn't have cans or plastic. They had to be very creative. So they took the lulav branches, like we have a koishel of the lulav, and they made it into a keli, wicker basket, that type of thing. So instead of making a koishel, they made it a little bigger, and they put in the tamarim, and the tamarim ripened in this koishel, in this koishel, in this wicker basket. Zok Tosefta, if she'asid lechel hatmar ulazarka tahar, if after you put the tamarim into this chaisel, you tore it open, took out the food and throw it away, it's not a keli. But the same kaishla, chashav lahachlis ulahaitzi boy min abayis umin asada, then it's tamei. If you planned on reusing it, putting more things back and forth, then it's tamei because it's a keli. And the Rambam quotes this in Hilchas Kelim, Perikei Halacha Zayin. Now this is interesting. Because here, you could reuse it, and then it's a keli. If you don't reuse it, it's not a keli. The same item. Is this a custom-made raya for our disposable items? If you use it once and throw it out, it's not a keli. If you reuse it, the same item, it's a keli. Then it's good for kiddush and until yadayim. And I must tell you that there are poskim, as we'll soon see, that make this analogy. A disposable cup is a chaisel. If you decide to throw it out, it's not a keli. If you want to reuse it and reuse it, it's a keli. But Rabbi Isai, I must point out, because it's negayah to probably of all of our shaylas, there's a big makom l'chalek. And I'll explain it because I think it's very negayah. Besides the mitzvah, according to many Rishonim, the mitzvah deraisa to toivel a keli, there's an issa to use a keli that wasn't getoivelt. Now, go home after the share and look in your refrigerator and you'll see you have a number of kelim that weren't getoivelt. How do I say that? The chrein jar bottle, the mayonnaise bottle, the wine bottle. Even if it's a Hamisha brand, the bottles are made by Goyim, which the Yiddish brands buy. How are you allowed to keep the mayonnaise, the chrein, the wine in the glass bottle that wasn't getoivelt? You're using a bottle that wasn't getoivelt. And indeed, the Heilige Chazon Ish, when he would buy an item made by a Goyish Keli, he would empty the contents right away. I don't want to use the chrein week after week or the mayonnaise, a Keli Shalai Tavel. But Poig Chazi developed his Mekel. And I believe there's a very good reason. Because a mayonnaise bottle is not a Keli. It's a wrapper. It's a container. Varaya, as soon as you finish the mayonnaise, you throw it in the garbage. When you finish the candy in a candy dish, you don't throw it in the garbage. What's the difference? A candy dish is a keli. A mayonnaise, chrein, wine, etc., tuna fish can is a wrapper, is a container. If they would find a way of selling mayonnaise by putting it in your pocket, they would do it. But there's not shaykh, so they devised a way. They give you a wrapper, glass, maybe plastic, a metal, and cans. So the heter of chaisel is, it's not a keli. It's a container, it's a wrapper, it's a shell. And if you have any doubts, listen to an incredible Mechaba in Shin Yudalet Ches based on a kolbay. The kolbay says, chaislois, mamash our case. You're allowed to destroy it on Shabbos. You're allowed to break this chaisel on Shabbos. It's like cracking a nut. Now, what is the analogy to cracking a nut? The teretz is, it's a beautiful analogy. A coconut shell, I assume, is a pretty sturdy item. And some places in the Congos, they might even reuse the coconut shell. But no one's going to say that a coconut shell is a keli that you're breaking. It's a shell. Now, if in the Congo they want to reuse it, gesundheit, but it's not a keli. Rav Moshe in Orachayim Aleph Kuf Chav Beis goes so far to say, based on this chaisel, that mi'ikadadin, again, he's really machmal halacha, but mi'ikadadin, you're allowed to open a can on Shabbos, because a tuna fish can, or any can for that matter, is only a chaisel. It's only a klifa. There's an issa of making a keli, but a klifa is not a keli. Now, Rav Moshe at the end of the tshuva says we shouldn't open cans or bottles or wrappers or bags. But the point is, a chaisel is a container for the food. That's why it's not makabel tumah. Because a keli is a makabel tumah. A container, a wrapper, a shell, a chaisel, a klifa is not. So it's not because it's disposable, but rather because it's not a keli. Now you understand the second half of the Tosefta. Let's say you decide to reuse this chaisel. You decide after you finish the mayonnaise to reuse the glass jar to store things. Now, Rabbi Yid, it's no longer a chaisel. You want to reuse it as a keli? Keli's a keli. So the point is, it's not the pshat. One use is a chaysel and is mutter, and therefore disposable. But if you use the chaysel once, it's a container. It's a wrapper. It's not a keli. Once you decide to reuse it, you're showing me you're making it, you're using it into a keli. Oy bazoi, imagine a plastic cup. Is a cup a chaysel? Absolutely not. A cup is a keli. So how could you say chaysel is a disposable? It's not true. A chaysel is a container. A glass jar is a container. A plastic cup is a cup. Now, if you'll tell me you makabel from Sinai, a disposable item is not a keli, I could agree. I understand. You might be right. But to say that a plastic cup is a chaysel is wrong. A plastic cup is a cup. Now, you want to tell me a disposable cup is not a keli? It's a free country. You can say what you want. But the plastic cup was made to be a cup. A cup is a keli. So the point is, a container, that's not a keli. But a disposable pan or a disposable cup might be a keli. Now, this is the crux of the issue. Maybe even though it's a cup, but if it's only used once, it's not a keli, it's aroi. That might be true. But let me just give you one more mashal, I think, to crystallize the point, and then we're going to go in order of the Shulchan Aruch. Imagine someone comes to a kiddush, and as often is, there's everything there except for a becha. They forgot to get a becha. So he has it. So he says, "Oh, let me use a plastic cup." Someone says, "No, it's the pastinished. You have to use something at least metal, glass, becha." You know what? I have a good idea. It's an interesting eitzah, but it's a good idea. Make kiddush on the bottle of wine. That will be your becha. So his mind, a glass bottle is a keli. I think that's wrong. You're better off with a plastic cup. A plastic cup is a keli. A glass bottle is a chaysel. That's the point. Let's apply this lemaisa, and I think we should have a sheer delight. The first question that people on the traveling, they stay over in a hotel overnight. Hotel is very accommodating, but they don't give washing cups. Can you wash on a plastic cup? So the truth is, in Siman Dalet Tziv Zayin, the Mechaber says that even though you're supposed to use a keli for Netilas Yadayim, it's not ma'akiv. If there's no keli, wash and make a bracha without a keli. So there's not too much discussion regarding a disposable cup as far as Netilas Yadayim is concerned. But the big discussion is regarding washing for bread. Siman Kuf Nun Ches. Where there, a keli is ma'akiv. So here, we have a shayla, a person's traveling in a hotel, there's no washing cup, can use a plastic disposable cup. So here, there is one opinion in the Paiskim, why not? A plastic cup holds 2 reviyas, 7-ounce cup is 2 reviyas, but maybe the fact that it's disposable. So the fact that it's plastic is not a chesaron, because all the plastic washing cups that you have in shuls are also plastic. But the shaila is, maybe since it's disposable, doesn't have a shem keli. So here I found mamish our sugya. The Mishnas Yaakov, the Kapasharav and Siman Vav regarding Kiddush. The Shraga Hamer in Aleph Nun Hey regarding Kiddush and Netilas Yadayim. And the Orletzian in your Aleph Vav regarding Netilas Yadayim. All say a plastic disposable cup cannot be used for Netilas Yadayim. And they point to the Mishnah, to the Tosefta, that a chaysel is not a keli. So if you throw it out, it's not a keli. So regarding Netilas Yadayim and Kiddush, a disposable cup is a chaysel and cannot be used for the mitzvah Netilas Yadayim or Kiddush. However, it's interesting, the Papa Rav in his Hakdama and the Ravozna and the Hakdama to the Shraga Meir Sefer on Netilas Yadayim, Pischei Zuta, they both say, what you're right there, that you can't use a plastic cup, paper cup for Netilas Yadayim, it's not true. I don't know, it's interesting askama that they argue on a psak, but both the Papa Rav and Ravozna say, your comparison from a chaysel to a paper cup is wrong. A paper cup is a keli. Now, if you consider it You don't like it because it's paper, that's fine with me. But don't say that a paper cup is a chaysel. And Taka, this is printed in his Vayan Yosef Aleph Samachei. He says, I don't understand. A paper cup that's made to drink from is a keli. It's not a chaysel. Rav Henkin in the Gevurah Saliyo, Pei Vav, says, Eini roya chashash. I don't see what's wrong with a paper cup. The Oznidbru, Chelik Vav, Memches says, I have no makar that a chat pami is not a keli. That a disposable is not a keli. The Kinyan Torah in Aleph Memtes, and Rav Ozna in the Askama to the Sefer, Shraga Mer and Atilos Yadayim, Mamash says this, if it holds the amount of water that's needed, if it's not leaking, what's wrong? The Ber Moshe in Chelik Gimel and Hey Mem Aleph has a different angle. He says regarding Atilos Yadayim, it's based on a Mishnah. You could even use a kli glolim, a most inferior keli made of the waste of an animal. So how could a paper cup or a plastic cup be worse? Now the truth is the raya is not a raya, because a kli glolim at least is used. Maybe the fact that it's disposable is not a keli. And I saw them in Chas Yitzchak and Yud Chav Gimel has this taina. But the point is, there are a number of Gedolei HaPoskim, and there are more, that say, even though you throw it out, does not take away the Shem Keli. So the Chiddush is, even a paper cup is good. Certainly today's plastic cups is good for Netilas Yadayim. Now I heard this more than once, you can't use a plastic cup because it doesn't hold hot water. Now this is wrong for two reasons. First of all, a plastic cup does use hot water, hold hot water. And also as the Bialach in Kuf Nun Tes Dalit says, there's no requirement that a clean Netilas Yadayim has to hold hot water. Fakir, you're supposed to use cold water for washing. Now, that's why Lamaisa, there is definitely a Makam Lahakul Lechatchila to use a plastic cup for Netilas Yadayim. Now, I've heard this Mamash called Lei Pasik. It's better to use 2 cups than 1. So someone asked me, is that true? I said, Avad, it's a Pasik. Toivim Shnayim in Echad. But beyond that, there's no reason. If you hold 1 is no good, so why is 2 better? The 2 adds up, 2 zeros add up. So l'chayra, like all the makilim, 1 plastic cup is okay for Netilas Yadayim. Now, lamaisa, again, there are some that are machmir, as I told you, and they consider it chaysel, but it's hard to understand the svar. Someone who travels a lot to ask me, can you use an inflatable cup for washing? I haven't seen it. But the truth is, if it holds the amount of water and it's not leaking, why not? Now, the existence today is only today. But the kais itself is a good kais. What's the difference? Someone else asked me, and I used to see this more often. Today you don't see it often. These are collapsible cups. You open it, you close it. So that is a perfect option. Again, if it doesn't leak and it holds a revius of water, what's wrong? Even on Shabbos you could use that. Because a shel prakim that you have to assemble the pieces is no good. This is one piece. This is like a folding table, a folding chair. You could use it on Shabbos and weekdays and perfectly okay. A styrofoam has 1 maila that it holds hot water, which is not much of a maila. But the fact is that a styrofoam cup does last. Now, you might say it springs a leak after a while, so maybe it's not so good, but if you're careful with the styrofoam, l'chayra styrofoam, a plastic cup, would be considered a keli regarding these halachas. I was learning the suga and I found a new shaila. Someone asked so Yanka Fish in the Evan Yisrael, Chelik Tessim and Lamed, if it's proper to use disposable plates for Shabbos Suda. I guess they felt it's not covered Shabbos, it's not a keli. So he answers like a godless is supposed to answer with seichel. The women work hard enough a whole week, they're weak enough when it comes to Erev Shabbos, to make them wash plates is unfair. He says, then you don't use this by a chasana, disposables, but he says you use it by a bris, it's a keli. And you're worried about covered Shabbos? So if the fish and the cholent and the kugel is good, that's enough covered Shabbos. Now he's talking like a god. In other words, ideally it's more covered Shabbos to use china, but if the women are falling apart as it is and they have enough work, so leave it as it is. It's enough of a keli, yoytza, oinig, covered Shabbos, kidin. To use a plastic cup for Kiddush is mamish our inyan. The truth is that it is disposable, you don't reuse. But what's wrong? It's a keli. Now Rav Moshe has a tshuva that is very misquoted. The tshuva was written in Tafshin Chav Ches, in Archaim Gimel Amates. He was asked about a paper cup. There was no plastic cups in those days. Rav Moshe has his chiddush that a kais has to be sholem. The Magen Avram says even if the base, the fisula, is broken, it's no good. It has to be sholem. So Rav Moshe says, so I believe that a paper cup, and it seems like because it doesn't last, is broken before you start. So therefore, it's disqualified for Kiddush. Rav Moshe says, b'diavad, you can be mekel, but Rav Moshe's problem was a paper cup in Tafshin Chav Ches that was something like the snow cones of today or the Dixie cups that don't last. Now, some poskim, it's interesting, the Minchas Yitzchak Chelik Yud Chav Gimel, the Tzitz Eliezer Yud Beis Chav Gimel, the Oz Nidbur that I mentioned earlier, all question Rav Moshe's psak with great derech eretz, and they say, well, right now it's good. Who said it has to be a, perfect cup that lasts and lasts and lasts? But Rav Moshe probably felt that this is like a dalas. But that was Rav Moshe's psak regarding paper. A plastic cup of today that does last, maybe Rav Moshe's mekel. So I saw two different quotations. Some quote Rav Moshe that even plastic, some say only paper. But whatever the case is, Rav Moshe's psak was written regarding paper. We saw already Rav Henkin is mekel regarding Kiddush. Rabbi Yanka Fisher in the Mar Shabbos, Chelik Dalet, Tov Kuf Nun Ches is mekel. I saw Rabbi Yashiv and Ashriya Ish Beis, Samach Beis. In a few places is quoted as saying a plastic cup for Kiddush is fine. Now, Avada all agree that a kais of Kiddush is a mitzvah. And I saw the Satmar Rav and others say this as well, there's definitely an inyan of Zeh Keli V'Anveyu to have a real becha. After all, a plastic cup is not a hiddur. I once mentioned this in the Shir, Balabas said it's a fair shapasik. Zeh Keli, it's a good Keli, but V'Anveyu make it better. So it's interesting reading, but Lamaisa L'Chatchila all agree, Al Zeh Keli V'Anveyu, get a becha, but if there's no becha available, then l'chayre, a plastic cup would be enough of a keli because it holds the amount of wine. Someone asked me, he goes to a camp, and all they have is these bechers, and he's a mafunik. He doesn't want to use someone else's becher, even if it's rinsed out. So how could I tell him that he can't use a disposable cup? According to many paiskim, it's kasher l'chatchila. So again, you try to have a regular kais, but if he can't use someone else's kais, a disposable cup is fine. Now today they manufacture specially designed disposable bechers. Now the truth is it's stronger than a plastic cup, a disposable cup, but it's not much stronger than the tumbler look-alike glass cups that they manufacture. But the problem is if you hold disposable is not a keli, so the fact that you made a disposable becher, but it's still disposable, so what are you gaining? I think the real appeal of this idea is it's more of a hiddur mitzvah. Maybe it's more zekeli v'anveyu, or maybe practically you can't put out plastic cups and tell people make kiddush on plastic cups. It doesn't pass for you. But if you put out disposable becha, okay, so it's a becha. Maybe that's the maila. But again, if you hold a disposable cup is not a keli, then the chayra disposable becha is not much better. Now, I always wonder, there are some people that are very makbid will not make kiddush unless they have a becha. But if they make kiddush on schnapps, they'll use the shot cup. It's the same plastic. So if you're makbid on a kais, regabi wine, why is schnapps any different? The other question that I mentioned, if you don't have a becha, which is better, a plastic cup or a wine bottle? Again, our understanding would be that a plastic cup you're better off. A plastic cup is a kais. A wine bottle is a chaisel. Now, I looked into this and I found it was the quoting of maybe Tuvia Weiss's Eingesund, who once came to a kiddush and there was no becha. So he made kiddush on a plastic cup, but he had in mind also that the kiddush goes on the wine. So just in case disposable is not good, you have this emergency hatch, the bottle of wine. Interesting question, moving on to a different Hilchos Shabbos sugya. Something that was not muktzah Erev Shabbos can become muktzah on Shabbos. I'll give you a simple example. A keli that breaks on Shabbos and now the broken pieces are not usable becomes muktzah. As we said earlier, we spoke about this last week, ein muktzah chati Shabbos means if it becomes ois muktzah, it's okay. But something that breaks is unusable is muktzah. A better mashal, a more common mashal, a peanut Erev Shabbos is not muktzah. But once you take out the nut, the shells remain muktzah. Oh. Now consider the following question. You have a disposable cup, plate, or cutlery that are used on Shabbos. Now, since nobody reuses these disposable items, are they muktzah on Shabbos? A wrapper that's sticky and is not usable, l'chayr is muktzah on Shabbos. So when you take off the wrapper off the candy, put it right in the garbage. Maybe it's graf shari, but a wrapper that's unusable is muktzah. The question is, on a used disposable item, does it become muktzah on Shabbos? Also here, I think logic dictates, even though no one reuses it, no one washes it, but it's possible to wash it and reuse it. I wouldn't say it's like a useless shell or broken keli. It's a dirty keli, but you're allowed to wash it. So we could say that a used disposable plate, cup, cutlery is not yet muktzah because it is reusable on Shabbos, even though no one else does it. But listen to a more common question that has an important halachic ramification. The Shulchan Aruch in Shin Ches Zayin says that a broken keli, let's say you have a vase that broke in half, you could use it to cover your cup of tea to keep it hot. But, it's not done typically. So the Shulchan Aruch, based on the Gemara, says, if it broke on Shabbos and it's roi, so it's not muktzah. If it broke Erev Shabbos and you threw it in the garbage Erev Shabbos and it was there ben hashmashais, then it's muktzah. Because you indicated that for you it's not a keli. So if you threw out a broken keli that's usable, it becomes muktzah and cannot be reversed. Now the question is, if you threw out a keli shalem, strange person, he threw out a full keli. So it's come out of Beferish Taisis and Kuf Chafei. The Mishnah Nun Aleph and the Sharatzian points to that Taisis. If you throw out a keli shalem, even Erev Shabbos, it doesn't become muktzah. But l'daita, you don't make a keli into ice keli. It's only a sheva keli. Now, Rabbi, I'm going to ask you a common question. A person finished his water bottle Erev Shabbos, or Thursday, whatever it is, and he threw it in the garbage. Or his apple juice bottle. Now, those apple juice, grape juice, plastic bottles are very, very durable. You could put water in it, you could bring it on a trip, it doesn't leak, it doesn't crack. You threw out a water bottle, apple juice bottle, Friday, and it's not even dirty if you put it in the recycle garbage can. Can you take it out on Shabbos? You decide to learn outdoors, you want to take some water outside to drink. Very interesting question. It's not broken, but then again, no one reuses it. How do you look at a keli shalem that's disposable? If it's a keli shalem, it's not muktzah. If you can tell me it's not a keli, then it's muktzah. But I'll give you a much better example. People typically, by a simcha or in a camp or in a yeshiva, they bring the garbage can to the table, and it makes it easy to clean the garbage. Throw the garbage into the garbage can. But this, more often than not, is a problem. Because if bein hashmashais, there was only garbage in that garbage can, the garbage can was a basis to muktzah, because all the garbage becomes muktzah bein hashmashis. Migis ketzoyle bein hashmashis, ketzoyle kula yayma. The only exception is if you have a kli shalem in the garbage bein hashmashis, which is not muktzah. So that saves the whole garbage. So some people put clean garbage bags in the bottom of the garbage can. So it's always a basis for heta, so it's not muktzah. Wonderful. My question is, let's say you're not so advanced, you don't put clean garbage bags, but in your garbage can there is a water bottle, apple juice bottle, grape juice bottle, plastic. Does that make it ois muktzah? Because it's not broken, it's a kli shalem. But then again, it's the disposable. Most people throw it out. So this highlights our new question regarding disposable. A disposable water bottle that's fully functional, the same cover, the same spout that you threw in the garbage, is that muktzah or not? So really the question is it a kli shalem or not? But I think the answer is none of the above. A water bottle is a kli shalem. But why does Taisa say a kli shalem does not become muktzah? Because batla daite, no one throws out a kli shalem. But a water bottle that everybody throws it out. I saw a number of the Heintige Paiskim, the Megillah Sefer, the Chutshani, the Shvus Yitzchak quoting Rabbi Yashiv. They say that you throw out a disposable bottle, it becomes muktzah. Ayit shalem, but there's no batla daite. So if so, a kli shalem is no better than a broken keli. And if you threw it out, you magala das that it is not usable, and therefore it becomes muktzah. I was thinking it's even more pashit. It's not a kli shalem, it's a chaisel shalem. When you used the water bottle on Friday, it was a container for the water bottle, for the water. Now, if you want to reuse it, fine. You're making it into keli. If you threw it out Friday afternoon, you identified it as a non-keli, chaisel. Now, Bein Hashmash is kicked in, chaisel is not a keli, it becomes muktzah, and that's why you can't use it. What I saw from Rabbi Yashiv in the Shalmei Yonis in Gimel Samach Beis, he says something very mistavra. A keli that breaks on Shabbos, if the broken pieces are roi, is not muktzah. But Rabbi Yashiv said, if you throw out a water bottle on Shabbos, it becomes muktzah. How could it be worse than a keli shavar? So he says very lam de shavart. A keli ben hashmashais was kulei roi. To make it muktzah on Shabbos, you have to do something to throw it out from a mashal, but it's still the same keli, although it's broken. But a water bottle was oimid to use until you emptied it, and then it's muktzah. So once you emptied it on Shabbos, it goes back to its original status of a non-keli, which is muktzah. That's even a bigger chiddush. But I think we're comfortable to say that disposable bottles that were thrown out before Shabbos do become muktzah. One thing, sometimes someone once asked me, it's a rare shaila, but he threw out, by mistake, a non-used disposable item. He threw out a plate or whatever by mistake. So besides the fact that it's not muktzah because it's a mistake, but this is a keli shalim. So here we have Taisa's batla daitai, and it's not muktzah. Listen to a more challenging than it sounds type of question, because it's a big sugya in halacha, but it's specifically regarding disposable items. The Shulchan Aruch in 3 places, Reis Samach Hei Gimel, Shin Yud Vav, and Shin Lamed Hei Daled, has discussed a big sugya that's in Shabbos and in Beya. There's an Issa Midrabanan to Mevato Kli Meichonei. You can't take a usable keli and make it muktzah on Shabbos. A good example. I saw this in Chashleim and Tinyana Yotchesif Cotton Hay says, if you have an air conditioner that the water is dripping, it's not dripping actually, that's the condensation of the way the air conditioner works, that water is muktzah because it's a noilid. It was created on Shabbos. So you're not going to drink the water, right? But you can take a soup bowl and put it under the water, under the drip, because you're mevato kli meichonei. Because after a short while, the water is going to drip into the plate. The plate is a basis to muktzah, and now you can't move the plate. And that's what the Rashi learns is the issa of soisa midrabanan. You are ruining the keli. You can't use it. It's immobile. So I would like to ask a question. So you're not going to use a cholent pot to catch the drip. Can you put a disposable pan under the drip and keep it there? And after you throw it out. Is there an issa of mevato kli meichonai by a disposable item? No, a new shaila, right? Oh. But I'm going to ask you, I'll follow Minig Yisrael to answer a question with another question. How are you allowed to use a napkin or a tissue on Shabbos? After you use it, it's no longer usable. You dirty tissue is muktzah. Why is the mevatel kli me'echanai? So the answer is very pashut. Mevatel kli me'echanai means you ruin a keli, you're not using it for its regular use, you're ruining it. But if a keli was made to blow your nose or to wipe your hands, I'm not ruining it, I'm using it. It was made to do that. That's not ruining it, I'm using it. Now, when I finish blowing my nose, I shouldn't put it on the table, I should put it right in the garbage, so I don't have to move the muktzah. But I'm not ruining the keli, I'm using it. The Shvus Yitzchak in Reish Lamed Gimel quoting Rabbi Yashiv in the Shmir Shabbos, Chav Beis, Chav Tes, says this unique yisoid regarding a disposable item, if it's made to use, you're allowed to use it on Shabbos, and it's not mevatel kli me'echanai, not because it doesn't have a Shem Keli, but you're not being mevatel it. You're using it, not abusing it. So I was thinking that might be the heta also to put a disposable pan under the drip, so the drip will go into the pan, even if you say, well, it's a pretty good keli to me, but if that's the intended use, to use it once, I'm using it once. Rav Vosman Chelik Ches Nun Gimel speaks about putting a napkin under a wax strip. It's also mevatel kli me'echanai. So he goes with the other yisoid that I mentioned, that maybe a napkin is not a keli, it's only a mustaki, it doesn't last too long. So by a mustaki, there's no issa mevatel kli me'echanai because it's not a keli. But the point that I think is important is that mevatel kli me'echanai might not apply to a disposable item if that's its intended use. Next question. I once saw the shaila. Someone was making a hamish simcha, and he had what we call disposable dessert cups. It's basically two parts. There's the base, it's all plastic, and the cup itself with a stem. And you push the stem, the top part, into the base, and now you have a nice dessert or a fruit cup. He forgot to make them before Shabbos. Are you allowed to construct, if that's the right word, put the two pieces together to make a disposable dessert cup? It's all plastic, you throw it out after the use. People that need injections on Shabbos, they have to put together a syringe with a needle. They're also making a keli on Shabbos. But if you notice, the common denominator, both of these items are disposable. One use, throw it out. Is there an issa of makeh b'pratish by a disposable item? Now, we did speak about, once before, I mentioned it earlier, you're allowed to open and close a table and a chair, so why am I worried about this dessert cup or this syringe? There's this pashut. The folding chair is one piece. That's why it's mutter. This is two pieces. This is your construct. This is like a mita shel prakim. So this, I must tell you, is a big sugya. But one thing I think is clear, that there is an issa of makeh b'patish even by a disposable item. And here we're going to find the first disposable item in history. I saw Reb Shlomo Zalman in Mincha Shloim at Tinyana Yotes, the Machzor Yo in Beis Yud Gimel, Sifkat and Gimel, both bring this raya, and it's a brilliant raya, that there is an issa makeh patish even by a one-time use item. And it's a Gemara that we all know. And it's a Gemara in Be'el Amid Gimel, the Machab and Shincha Beis Dalet quotes it. You're now allowed to take a kisam, a splinter of wood off the tree, to make a toothpick to clean your teeth. Kisam lachtzes b'yishinav. So Mr. Bural's tikkun keli. Question: a toothpick is only used once. Why is there an issa makeh b'patish? Is a raya that even by a disposable item that's only used once, there is an issa of makeh b'patish. There's actually a second raya, also a beautiful einfal, and also a gemara that we are familiar with. The Gemara says that you're not allowed to that hadassim that have too many berries, enough of merubav is not good for hadassim. But if you take off the berries and now that it's a regular hadas, it's kosher. But don't take off the berries on Yom Tiv because it's tikkun keli. You're making the hadassim. The hadassim are not a keli gomer. It's only for a few days of sukkis. Is a rai even by a disposable item? There's an issa of makeh b'patish. And that's why the Machzor Yo that I mentioned, in Machzor Yo actually earlier, Cheli Beis Yud Gimel, Beis Yud Gimel, Takasivka and Gimel, when he discusses making a disposable dessert cup, he says this is a real problem. Now, as far as the syringe, you'll see the Mincha Shleima is makel for a different reason. There are other mekilim, I don't want to get into that, I'll leave that for now. But one thing I think is beautiful, we found a source of the first disposable item in history. It's kisim lachtzais boishina. They made it and they threw it out right away. If you want to know a really amazing disposable, today they have what's called dissolvable stitches. They put in stitches that dissolve after a few days. So that, in a certain sense, is bringing disposable to a new level. Not that you throw it out. It just self-destructs. So you can look at it like nothing. But I saw Rabbi Nissen Karyelis in the Chut Hashani, Amid Reish Chaf, he says, Punkt Fakert. He says that you make these disposable stitches, you stitch the person, then you tie it up, you're making a kesher, and the kesher remains as long as you need it. You don't untie the kesher afterwards, it dissolves. But you made a kesher shel kayama that lasts as long as you need it. That would be a malacha deraisa of taifa or kaisha, even though it dissolves. But it lasts as long as you need it to last, and you don't untie it eventually. That's his understanding. So here you have the disposable, dissolvable stitches. Question: you finish the food in the pan, the chicken or the kugel in the disposable pan, and you want to get it into the garbage. It doesn't fit. So you want to crush up the disposable pan that's no longer usable and throw it in the garbage. Is that a question of soisa keli? If a disposable item is a keli, then you can't destroy it. Soisa keli. Someone after a kiddush wants to stamp on the garbage to break all the plastic cups so there's more room for garbage. You're breaking numerous kelim. Someone is sitting by a speech, he's getting all nervous, he starts to play with a disposable fork and he breaks it, bends it out of shape. So it's like kareya b'chamasei, he's breaking something in a constructive way. So the truth is, if you just fold the pan in half, so it's not broken, you could open it and close it. But here, I would say the following. Imagine you see someone that is, Rahman Litzlan, takes a kisim, lachz the beishinav, and makes it on Shabbos. So he's over. And you break that kisim, that toothpick. Isn't that an issa of soisa? The fact that it's only one's big deal. But this, I saw Rabbi Yankiv Fish in the Mar Shabbos, in Chelik Dalet, Ois Chafei, and Tatakal Shitasa, he says he holds you allowed to use a disposable cup for Kiddush. He said, but don't break the cup, because that would be soisa keli. Rabbi Yashiv said about cutting a pan, let's say you have a kugel and you cut it in half, that's also soisa keli, you're breaking the pan. I would have thought you're making it into two kelim. It's also a problem. But Lamaisa, if it's a keli, there's an issa of soisa keli. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman and Shlochon Shlomo Yud Beis Ois Yud was asked about a plastic cup that got bent. So he says that's not broken. It's like a paper that got bent. The opening it's not broken when it's folded slightly. So that's not an issue. It's like a hat that gets smashed. You're allowed to fix it if it's not terribly broken. But to break literally a plastic cup or a aluminum pan and crush it, that's the issa of soisa keli al kapanim, and issa derabanan of soisa keli, which is mekalkul. Another typical disposable question: if you put very hot soup in a plastic bowl, it starts to deform. Especially in a foam bowl, it starts to soften and lose its shape. The Mishnah Berurah in the beginning of Shin Yud Ches quotes a Rambam that if someone's merapa guf kasha, if he softens a hard item, that's the malacha of bishul. Either hardening a soft item or softening a hard item, that's the malacha of bishul. So I saw Rabbi Yashiv in the Mar Shabbos Daled Amitov Kuf Chaf says that's a problem. If you know it's a psik reish, you're going to put very hot soup into a plastic bowl or hot water into a plastic cup and it's going to become soft, that's the malacha of merapa guf kasha. But most poskim that I saw are make for the simple reason that that's not a ma'aseh malacha. You're not doing it for any constructive purpose, and there are some things that are not a malacha unless you're mechaven for that. You want to have a hot bowl of soup. It doesn't ruin the bowl. You don't care about it. The Shevet HaLevi and Ches Nun Zayin, the Kinyan Torah, I saw the Shevet HaKossi. A very nice tshuva I saw in the Migdanis Eliyahu who says it's only a suffix and it's kalachayad. But the Maisa, the Welt is Mekel, and I understand the reason. It's just not the Tzuras HaMalacha of Merapa Guf Kasha. The question of tearing apart a hospital gown is a challenging question. Because, laimi boy, if you hold that a disposable gown, disposable item is considered a keli, so this disposable gown is a beged. You can't tear apart a beged. It's mekalka, but still it's a drabanan. But even if you're going to say a disposable is not a beged, but you can't tear a piece of paper, even though it's mekalka midrabanan, but you still can't tear something that's the issa drabanan of kareya. So imagine someone puts a paper towel as a bib and tears it apart afterwards. That would be at least a mekalkal. So basically, the poskim seem to be machmir. Just like, people are even more so, they're worried about pulling out paper towels from the holder because they might tear the next one. Because tearing kaireya, even derech kilkul, is awesome. But I should mention, b'shas adchak, there are two stadim to be makel in this issue. There's a famous sheet of the Rav Shulchan Aruch, the Bialach in Shin Mem Yud Gimel quotes it without a name. The Rav has a chiddush that kaireya is only shaykh by something that was woven together, like material. The Lashon, the Bialacha brings davar atofur v'nereg shenitvar migufim rabim, like in the Yeriyos in the Mishkan, a beged that was woven. That's the issa of kareya. But something like or that's one piece, there's no issa kareya. So according to the Rav, perhaps our paper God is different, but the Amoluga paper that was from wood, one piece, maybe there's no issa kareya. But the Bialacha proves that the Rav is not right. From a Rambam, he doesn't even quote his name, als covered. So the Rav says it, but it's a shver zach to be saimachan. There's another heta, which is a chiddush of the Rav in Shin Ches Chav Ches, that to step on broken items, there's no issa, because once it's broken, there's no issa of breaking it further. So maybe a gown, if it doesn't have the halacha of a keli, maybe you could say it's not an issa of kareya. But certainly, it's better to take it off, even if it needs a little difficulty, because it could be the issa of kareya. And last but not least, the Yeridea questions, I hope by now should be simple. Is there a chiyuv to toiv, the old shayla, to toiv a disposable pan? So one thing I could say without doubt, something you only use once, the Ramah says clearly in Kuf Chaf, Siv Ches, in Yeridea, there's a chiyuv tefillah. People say only once is potter. It's not true. The Ramah says it's chayiv. Where did people get this only once from? From disposable. But disposable gufa, what's taka de pshat? So to say a disposable pan is a choisel is wrong. A pot is not a choisel, right? So a disposable pan is like a pot. It's not a choisel. It's not a container. It's a pot. But I'll tell you something. Rabbi Yashiv and the Debetzina Rav both say you have to toivel a disposable pan. And that's very much l'shita sam. Because they both say you're allowed to make kiddush on a disposable cup, because the disposable cup is not a chaysel, it's a keli. So l'shita sam, if it's a keli, you have to toivel it. So there are those that still toivel disposable pans based on this chumrah. Granted, today they have many of them made by Yidden, so there's no chiyuv in the first place. But I would say, I think the Velt are makel not to toivel it. So first of all, we could say disposable is not a keli. But the truth is, without that, there's a significant sad to be makel. Rav Moshe in Yeridea Gimel Chav Gimel was asked about disposable items, and his understanding is that disposable pans cannot be reused too much. They don't last. You make kugel or chicken, it's come out impossible to wash it well. You cut a piece of chicken in the pan, you make a hole, it starts to leak. They can't be used too long. Oy bazoi, he tells to the Rambam we began with, that if you have a keli of dalas, it's not a keli. So in other words, even though it's aluminum, but it can't be reused. A plastic cup, you use cold water, because you could reuse it. But aluminum pan, his understanding is, it is not reused. Now he does imply, if you will designate it to use over and over. Someone asked me, he keeps cut challah in aluminum pan. Then he has to toivel it. It could last and last and last. But if you use it for a kugel, for chicken, that you can't reuse it, l'chayra, there's a tzati mekel, even if it's a keli, it's not a keli that lasts. Now someone asked me, he makes the kugel Thursday night, he has tayameh from the kugel Thursday night, he used it Friday night, kugel, Shabbos afternoon, and left over Sunday, using it 4 times. but that's not 4 different uses. That's the same use. That you're just chazering over the same use. So that's not chayiv in tefillah. Grada Rav Moshe in Yeridea Gimel Chav Beis, Rabbi Yankov and Emes Yaakov, and Shulchan Levi has a beautiful tshuva in Chav Daled Lamed Hey, all say that aluminum pan has another tzad to be made independently. And that is, aluminum is not from the Sheish Matches that's found in the Torah. It's a more recent discovery. Maybe it's not chayiv in tefillas kelim midaraisa. It's a sheish ksuma boim ke'echad. So aluminum pan at most is a chiyav drabanan, and since we have these good svara that it can't be reused, that's why the belt are saimach lahakol. The Machzor Eliyahu in Beis Nun says there's no svara to be machem at all. He has a very nice tshuva ayin sham. Now, one of the Heintige Poskim, I was surprised, but he writes, if you want to be really from, take the pan, fold it up, open it, so that Keli Sha'asa Yisrael, and you're not chayiv in tefillah. Which is a pellet, because when you fold it, it's not broken. So if it's not broken, it's not Keli Sha'asa Yisrael. Now, I was asked once about a disposable pot. I never saw it, so I made it my business. I went to the store, I did some research, and I told him, I'm not buying anything, it shouldn't be Gnevas Das. I asked the storekeeper, was very accommodating, can I please see a disposable pot? So he told me it was very popular for a 3-day Yom Tiv, because if you have Cholon Shabbos and 2-day Shavuos, what do you do with the Cholon pot? Basically, the one I saw upon him, the disposable pot, is nothing more than a reshaped aluminum pan that has a pot, has a cover, and it's the same material, and it's practical. That is definitely not chayiv and tefillah. It's even probably less than a aluminum pan. Why? Besides that, it's aluminum, but it's only made to make cholon, not to keep chalon. Once you make cholon once, you can't reuse it. It's so oily, it's hard to wash. So that's one good reason that it's not chayiv and tefillah. The good news also is it's made by Yidden, because Goyim don't have 3-day Yom Tovs, I should tell you, so they have no problem. So therefore, Keli Yasi Yisrael is not chayiv and tefillah. I also asked him to show me what people ask, a disposable grill. So at least, I'm telling you the ones I saw, there might be different ones, but he told me this is basically it's just 2 different sizes, but it's the same idea. A disposable grill, the bottom is a regular aluminum pan that you keep the charcoals, but the top is the question. The top is the grate, and it's made of metal. It's not aluminum. It's like a lattice design. It's made of a metal, not a very strong metal, but it's not as flimsy as a aluminum pan. Now, the machabas of the ferish, if you're grilling something, the grate is chayiv in tefillah, because that's what the food touches. But I never used this, but I was told by many people that you don't reuse this disposable grills. It gets too dirty. So even though it's metal mitzad echad, you don't have the kula of aluminum, the tour of aluminum, that's not a deraisa, but it's l'chayra, a disposable. So if your feeling is disposable items are not chayiv and tefillah is only used once and thrown out, it can't be reused. Like Moshe said that you can't reuse it, it's like the dalas. Then who had in a disposable grill. Rav Belsky Grad in the Sefer says that you don't have to toivel aluminum pans, but he does say to toivel a grill chad pami asimi matches kosher. Toivel b'lei bracha. But I imagine where he's coming from is that since you don't have the tzad of aluminum, so it's worse. But l'chayra, the fact that it's disposable should be enough svar, and that's the vinig oilam not to toivel. Achrein chaviv, I told you earlier, I once saw someone have his garbage. He had regular garbage, and he had the disposable item, then he had disposable shemus. Now that caught my attention. What is that supposed to mean? So let me tell you, there's no such thing as disposable shemus. Shem Hashem has to be kept with the utmost kedusha. The Torah K'dosh leisasun kein laHashem olekeichem rachmana litzlan. That's the way a person is able to do something to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And anything that has Shem Hashem, not only Sefer Torah Tefillah Mezuzahs, but Chumashim, Sidurim that have Shem Hashem has to be treated with utmost kedusha. The problem that we have seen in recent years is Baruch Hashem, there's so much learning going on, and there's so much divrei Torah that are circulating from all different venues. Yeshivas have worksheets and paperlach, divrei Torahs, newspapers. We are overwhelmed with divrei Torah, that it's pasha difficult to start burying all this divrei Torah. So there is a school of thought that Torah is Torah. You have to put it in Shem, you have to bury it. But there are those gedolim, Netziv and Minchas Yitzchak, that felt They made this chiluk. If something has Shem Hashem, then you can't do anything but bury it. But Divrei Torah, Lamashal, Dvar Torah, the yeshiva workshop, you can make a copy of it, the newspaper articles that don't have Shem Hashem, the Kedusha comes because you're printing Torah. If the Shasti printing, you have make it Tanai, it shouldn't be Chal Kedusha, I'm using it once, and then I'm going to throw it out, then you withheld the Kedusha. Shem Hashem ba'atzmiyusa is Kadesh, Tanai doesn't help. But other Divrei Torah without Shem Hashem, a Tanai helps. Now, how do I know they made a Tanai? You have to be certain that they know that's not going to put in Shemus, and a Tanai was made. But, just like Hoishanis, after Shana Rabbah, there's no Kedusha whatsoever. It's Tashmishe Minhig. You can't throw it in the garbage, you can't be Mavazid, you have to put it in a respectable place. So to those Gedolim said, put the Shemus without Shem Hashem in a separate bag, not in the garbage with the cholent bone and then the dirty diapers, and leave it out to the garbage man to take it. So this person gave it a creative name, Disposable Shemus. But it's not Disposable Shemus, it's printed Divrei Torah that doesn't have Kedusha. A guten Tag to you all.
Rabbi Isai, please stay seated for 2 minutes. An urgent message from G'dolei Rabbanim in our community by Harav and Rabbi Shem.
Rabbi Isai, I'm going to try to make it in less than 5 minutes. The worst nightmare for a Yiddish tata and mama is when they get that phone call notifying them that your child cannot come back to yeshiva. Your child doesn't fit the mold. Rabbi Isai, for those that experienced it, know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those that didn't, trust me, maybe you should help me, you should never experience. But trust me, the heart comes to a halt. The heart stops. What am I going to do with my child? What is this child's future? The parent could plead. The parent could cry. The parent could tell Menal, Menahelis, I beg you, it's Pekuach Nefashis. What is going to be with my child? And the response, we understand, but we're sorry. They go from one Moiseh to the next, and the response is identical. How many tears? How many sleepless nights? Rabbi Isai, but there's one Moised, a local Moised called Shalshelis Bes Yaakov. You probably didn't even hear about it. The parents hear that there's a school that maybe there's some hope. They run down to that building. They knock on the door. The door opens wide. And there you have the Menaheles or the Menal Rabbi Kogelman standing there, greeting them with open arms. And then looking straight in their eyes and saying, look at this child of yours with full confidence, with siyata d'shmaya. This child is going to grow up to be a Bas Yisrael. She is going to be a Yiddish Adama. You're going to see Nachas. Some hope. Rabbi Isai, it always boggled me. It's such a great school. Why is it the only school that has to send home the teachers with empty envelopes? And the answer is simple. Because the Satan will not allow the school to succeed. Because this school is the Eschel Gadol. The Satan realizes that these girls, if they go through this school, they're going to be saved. Rabbi Isai, we beg you, open up your arms, open up your hearts. Support the school. And let me tell you something. There are a lot of parents sitting here and a lot of Zaydis. We all know no one is immune today You could be the richest and the most wealthiest person, have all the resources, from professional help and private tutoring, but you're not immune. You could be running the most Hasidic home. You're not immune. We're living in a great time, but also a very difficult time. Before you write out that check, say to Bnei Shalom, in the schus that I'm going to help out these children and these families, I beg you, vaccinate my children, protect my children. And in the schus, you should all be zeiche, asach Yiddish nachas from your children.
Rabbi Shane, this was the meeting where the Skalena Rebbe, with many Rabbanim, the community, asking everybody. Over 200 girls are in the school. Over half a year they didn't pay the teachers, and the school wanted to close down. And we're asking everybody to give $1,000, $100 a month, a credit card, or whatever they could do monthly to Atzolas Nefoshes Mamish. Checks made to Shalsheles. Rabbi Brig is here, one of the big askanim of the Moisid. Rabbi Kugelman comes from time to time. Please, everybody, to try to help out themselves and get others to help out. Make appeal in the Bata Midrashim, like many did already, to be mechazek atzolas and fashas of this school. Tizkir mitzvahs. Reb Chaim Nekashim Arat Gushbog Lazaki Sol Lefike Chibram Tei mitzvahs. Shenem Adonai Chofetz Man Tzidko Yagel Tei V'Yadeh. Kaddish. Amen. Amen. Next week Sunday is the last day before the summer. Then the summer shul will start Yet Hashem in 2 weeks after the July 4th weekend, Monday night, and all neighborhoods, Bar Park, Williamsburg, Flatbush. Rabbi Isai, please do Lamaisa, take a credit card monthly or checks to pay out throughout the year to be able to Hatzolas Nefoshes, all the Rabbanim, the community called and asked that everybody should help to rata with the school. Tiskar mitzvahs. Shkoyach, tiskar mitzvahs, tiskar mitzvahs, tiskar mitzvahs. Rabbi Isai, please give bigger money, $1,000, whoever can. Shkoyach, tiskar mitzvahs. Credit card machine outside. Rabbi Isai, give a hand. Tiskar mitzvahs. Take a card, fill it out.
I thought you have one use, then you buy it for cost you 15 cents. You have one use, so. There you go, there you go. And he said not to use the back attack. There you go, there you go. Why is it glass? Is it glass of icing? I don't know that. I'm between the plastic cup and the Different chair.
No, but it's also
Yeah.
It's also
Just 1 minute. Let's do it. Simcha, do the sikkim, then you could go. Yeah. How are you first?
By Rabbi Moshe, his chiddush was that it has to be shalom, that it has to be a double chad,
Right, chashiv.
chashiv. That's why he kindness that plastic is also called. It's not just paper. Even though the tshuva was just about paper, it's not a double chashiv.
To tell you the truth, I saw two svarim, one quote of the Herod Ramosha, who had been plastic, and one said only paper. I don't know.
Because I saw a chiddush from Simcha ben Cohen.
Yeah.
Even if it's hard plastic, he kindness that it should be.
That's one of the two that I quoted. I saw that, page 44. But it's another sefer, written in the Yisrael, Gary Ingerman said he heard from Moshe's relative, Yaakov Ephraim Levovitz, so
Yeah.
he was only paper, not plastic.
Interesting.
I can't start,
Scott.
when it's muktzah, on Shabbos. No, on Shabbos it becomes muktzah. It's muktzah. You have a plate, falta shtuka, muktzah onto a table. Table on a branch fell on the table outside. So now it's a bus for the branch. When you shake the branch off, so then it's not buses. Why? It's a Shabbos. Muktzah on Shabbos. Before Ben
Before Shabbos.
If you put it Ben Hashmosh, yes. So therefore, even though you want good.
Any difference on the plastic cup?
I think so.
The last Kayla is yellowish. You try it out. You take a watermelon thing. You take out the
Try it
inside.
Oh, it's real?
Try it out on this
No.
It can stay like that for a couple of years. A year, half a year for sure.
So what's left? AFC
Rabbi Yakov noch nicht gegeben, please, hat zulassen Fusches.
I have to have it right there. Good. I have to have it right. Good. I would like to hear that. I'm looking for the evidence. But the Rambam said this does it. Are you ready, Simcha?
Okay. Rabbi Smith is giving a one-time sequel of today's shir, but it's not disposable. Shh.
Just a short summary. We learned today, Bez Hashem, a kli that's made from a dalas. The Rambam says it's not a keli because it doesn't last. An inferior paper, some say also is not a keli because it can't last. It can't be reused too often. A mustaki is a broken keli. It's broken because it was broken and was repaired temporarily. That's also like a broken keli. But the sugya of today is the word chaysel. The chaysel is a wrapper, usually that wraps the food. But if you use it once and throw it out, it's not a keli. If you reuse it, it is a keli. So here are the two ways of looking at our disposable kalim of our times. Some take the approach that anything that's used once, not 3 or 4, not many times, is a chaysel, even a plastic cup or an aluminum pan. And some say, no, that's a regular keli. The fact that you throw it out does not make it ois keli. It's not a wrapper that's there to hold the food. This is to drink from. This is a keli that is disposable. So that's the two schools of thought of the Gedolei HaPoskim. Either a chaysel is any disposable item, or a chaysel is only a keli that's used as a wrapper, as a shell, as a container. Now, many are makel, the gabin netilas yadayim, and negovasa, to use a plastic cup because it is a keli, it's not a chaysel. There's no chiyuv to have a styrofoam because it holds hot water. That's not a criterion regarding netilas yadayim. There's no mila 2 cups versus 1. An inflatable or collapsible cup is okay as long as it holds the water and it's not leaking. To use disposable dishes for Suda Shabbos, I guess it's Kvoid Ishtay, so it's also covered Shabbos, and not to make it too difficult. L'chatchila, a becher is preferable, but many are makel to use a disposable cup The new beches are, I guess, more zekeli v'anveyu, but even a plastic cup is okay. Disposable cup or bottle of wine, it's better to make on the disposable cup. Schnapps is the same problem, a disposable cup. Those that don't use disposable schnapps would not be different. Use a disposable item that's used is not muktzah, because it still can be reused if you wash it. If you threw out a water bottle before Shabbos, that becomes muktzah, because that's not batla daita. If I care batla daita, if I care here, the batla daita is that you threw it out, it became ois keli. There's no din of avatal kli me'echanai by a disposable item, especially if it's meyuchad lekach, to use making makab, the is of makab patish does apply even to a disposable item, like we said, a kisim, lachtzes ba'ishinav, and therefore making a dessert cup is a problem. Dissolvable stitches is a kesher shel kayama, maybe it's a toifer, because it lasts as long as it's supposed to, and then it doesn't get untied, but it falls apart. One should not crush or destroy a disposable cup or pan, but folding the pan just once, I guess if it's not broken, you're not breaking it. You're allowed to put very hot soup into a plastic bowl or hot water into a plastic cup, even though it's softened slightly. It's not the tzuras hamalacha. One should not tear a disposable gown unless it's shasat chagadol, because basically it's still the issa of kareya, which is mekalkal. And the minig is not to toiv aluminum pans unless you could reuse it and will use it many times. A disposable pot is not chayiv and tefillah. A disposable grill is similar to disposable pots, that if it's not reused, you don't have to toivel it. And disposable shemus is only a fancy way of saying if it's printed divrei Torah without Shem Hashem, that you plan on throwing it out, doesn't have a chiyuv of putting with regular shemus.